Greetings! This is Jin, your friendly noob, providing you free taxi service through the wilds of the beginning content of Star Wars: The Old Republic. I have no idea what I just said, but it sounded good. This is episode 07. No, stop that. Today I will be tackling the topic of adaptive gear. I've mentioned adaptive armor a few times during the course of my podcast series so far, and I thought I'd try to explain it today. Not only are there adaptive armor sets, but there are also adaptive weapons and offhand items as well. Today I'll talk about the benefits and the shortfalls of adaptive gear, where to get it, how to customize it to your particular class and combat role, how crew skills and crafting tie into it, and what planetary commendations can be used for. There's one part of adaptive gear that I won't go into today, and that is augmentation. That is more of an elder game thing, and it is outside the scope of what I'm trying to do with my dorky little podcast here. I will link to some information in this episode's show notes if you're curious about augmentations. Before I get into adaptive armor, I want you to do something for me. Dig deep into your memory and remember one of the first pieces of armor you saw during your earliest missions. Perhaps it was a piece of loot, or maybe it was one of your mission rewards. It might have had a white or a green title, and it probably had a couple of bonuses on it, such as a +4 to strength and a +4 to endurance. This is an example of common basic gear, and you'll find a lot of it during the course of your leveling. Many people advance their characters through most of the game in this basic armor, and it works well. You can find this basic armor on the GTN for really cheap, and you can find level-appropriate armor at various vendors in the area you are leveling in. This is a perfectly reasonable way to get through the game. And then there are people like me who like to make their characters look different than the people in the same class around them. A piece of adaptive armor is simply an empty shell that looks a certain way. If you compare a piece of green titled armor to this orange titled adaptive armor, you'll notice that the adaptive piece has much worse stats than the common armor. Usually there are no stats and no armor rating to speak of. How can this be better than an item with stats already on it? If you watch this podcast at youtube.com/Tor Noob, you'll see the example I'm about to ask you to imagine. Let's say you have a trench coat, a long coat with long sleeves, and it is black. If you hover your mouse over the coat, the tooltip will show you some words in white text under the heading of Item Modifications. These words are Armoring, Mod, Enhancement, and Dye Module. Each item mod is an object that you plug into the empty shell of the coat in this case, which will give it bonuses and maybe a different color. I'll explain each of these 4 item mods. Armorings and mods. In this case, a mod is a type of item mod. It gets confusing. Armorings and mods are made with the Cybertech crafting skill using materials gathered with the scavenging crew skill. There are material nodes on all planets throughout the Republic and the Empire, and if you have a gathering skill trained, every so often you'll see this node as a star-shaped icon on your minimap, a blob of some sort on the ground that you can run up to and right-click to gather the material. Once the material is in your inventory or in your cargo hold, the legacy cargo hold is great for this. You can use the Cybertech crafting skill to create armorings and mods. Armorings and mods generally come with one of 4 bonuses, good for the 4 classes in the game: Strength for Knights and Warriors, Willpower for Consulars and Inquisitors, Aim for Troopers and Bounty Hunters, and Cunning for Smugglers and Agents. You want this hypothetical trench coat for a Knight or a Warrior? Then make sure that the armoring and the mod that you put into it has a bonus to Strength. Armorings and mods have a level requirement as well. If you're going to use a strength armoring with a level 11 requirement, and your character is only level 10, he cannot use the item mod. He must be level 11 as well, or higher, to use it. This is true of most of the item mods. Color dye modules, which I'll explain later, do not have a level requirement. Enhancements, another type of item mod, are made with the Artifice crafting skill, and it uses materials gathered with the Archaeology crew skill. Material nodes are found on all planets as you level, so there will always be something you can gather if you have that skill trained. With this material in your inventory or in your cargo hold, you can craft the enhancement with Artifice. Enhancements differ from armorings and mods because instead of focusing on a main stat such as strength or willpower, these instead have a bonus to a secondary stat such as critical rating or power. For lower level characters, I always advise power enhancements because it increases the potential damage of your attacks and it helps you knock out enemies more quickly. Therefore, you'll level more quickly. As you increase in level, the particulars of your chosen advanced class will begin dictating which enhancement and other item mods you choose for your adaptive armor. I won't go into secondary stats with this particular episode, but I will link to some resources in this episode's show notes at tornoob.com if you'd like to familiarize yourself with some of the deeper content of the game. For now, just go with power enhancements. Also, not every piece of adaptive armor will have a slot for an enhancement. Belts and wrist bracers tend not to, for example. The fourth and last item mod I'm going to describe is the dye module, and out of all the item mods, this is the least useful and the most cosmetic thing. The single thing that it does is change the color of the armor piece. That black trench coat I've been talking about? Maybe this color doesn't fit your idea of a law-abiding Jedi Knight. Maybe a dark blue or a light brown would be more appealing. Or perhaps something more obnoxious like orange or yellow. Whatever you decide, the artifice skill is the crafting skill to have. The cartel market also sells dye modules, usually more unusual colors not available to the artifice crafter. These dyes, regardless of their origin, are always available on the GTN. Search for the word dye, D-Y-E, in any GTN console to see what's available, and then simply put the dye into the item modification slot for it. And there you go, the black trench coat is now a different color. The show notes will feature a link to dolphy.net where someone has helpfully compiled a list of all color dyes available in the game, what it looks like on armor, and where to find it. Do note that color dye will come in one of three ways. You have ones that have a primary color only, a secondary color only, and modules with both primary and secondary colors. This linked webpage will show this in action as well. I've talked about what item mods are available, but how do you apply them to a piece of adaptive armor? Hold down the Control key on your keyboard and then right-click on the armor to bring up the item modification window. This window is also available if you run up to an item modification station located on almost every world out there and certainly on Fleet in the crew skills area. With the item modification window open, you'll see a stylized outline of the coat and a more detailed diagram of the item mod slots available in this piece of armor. Adaptive gear is also called slotted gear for this reason. With the item modification and inventory windows both open, all you need to do is drag and drop the appropriate armoring, mod, enhancement, or dye module from your inventory into the appropriate item mod slot. Don't forget to hit the apply button, and there you have it. Suddenly, this coat with no stats has a pretty hefty bonus to your chosen stats. You can wear this piece of armor as you would anything else. I've mentioned that there's a downside to your character wearing adaptive gear versus the more common armor, and it is this. You can wear the same smelly set from level 1 to level 55, but every so often you'll need to buy a whole new set of armorings, mods, and enhancements in order to upgrade them as you level, and that process can get expensive whether you're buying these item mods off the GTN or crafting them yourself, and in the case of crafting them, it's a bit of a time sink as well. I tend to change mine out every 5 to 7 levels, so around level 11, 17, 23, 27, level 31, and so on. This tends to happen conveniently right about the time that I'm ending my questing on one planet, and I'm about ready to travel to the next world indicated by my class storyline. Armorings and mods tend to have the same level requirement, with enhancements being staggered between them. Usually I'll upgrade armorings and mods first, and carry a set of enhancements I can apply when my character reaches the level required for those enhancements, usually around the halfway point of advancing through a planet's missions. Here's a tip for those of you who want to commit to a set of adaptive gear. Choose planetary commendations as mission rewards when those are a choice. You can only carry 100 of these gold coins around in your inventory at once. Hit the currency tab on the bottom of your inventory window to see how many you currently have on you. These planetary commendations can be used to buy all of the item mods, which makes it a much cheaper option than acquiring your item mods through crafting or the GTN. There are specific vendors who are happy to take your planetary commendations, and these are located on Fleet in the supplies quadrant. You'll notice that the mods only cost 2 commendations each, while the armorings, enhancements, and other things will cost 7 coins each. I'll generally buy my mods first, and then the armorings and whatever else I need, and when I run out of planetary commendations, I'll upgrade the rest with crafting. Here's a tip about color dye. If you apply a color dye to just the chest piece of your armor, you can match the rest of your armor to that chest piece. This way you only need to use one color dye module on one piece of armor, not all 7 of them. Hit C to bring up the character sheet for your character, and on the right-hand side of the window there's a little tab with a stylized icon of a shirt. Click that to bring up the Customize Appearance portion of your character sheet and hit the Unified Colors button. Your entire set of armor, whether it's all adaptive or a mix of basic gear, will immediately change color to match the color of your chest piece. For you free-to-play and preferred accounts, this is a cosmetic thing that must be unlocked with an object that you can find for sale on the GTN or directly from the cartel market. Subscribers get the Unify Colors perk for free. I haven't gotten into weapons and offhand generators and the like, but they exist too, and there are item mods that are unique to them. In the case of any main-hand adaptive gun, cannon, or rifle, these take mods, enhancements, and something called a barrel, which comes with aim or cunning bonuses for those tech-using classes. The Arms Tech crew skill can make these barrels. Arms Tech can also make offhand vibro knives that some of the Imperial advanced classes and companions tend to use, and scatterguns, which seem popular with Republic scoundrels and the healing-centric companions. Adaptive vibro knives and scatterguns do exist, but they are limited to what is found as loot, and they tend to be very rare. You can find a small selection of them on the GTN. You Force users with your lightsabers take something called a hilt, which comes with strength or willpower as your class requires, and Artifice will make both of these. Artifice can also make offhand generators for focus, shield, and power, with the appropriate stat bonus for your class. Oh yeah, your companion can wear adaptive armor just the same as you can, and they have stats that benefit them too. For instance, the first Consular companion is a melee tank that uses aim, the same stat that a trooper or bounty hunter uses. I haven't mentioned where adaptive gear comes from, have I? Well, it's found all over the place. It's found as loot, the cartel market, each of the crafting skills can make them, and of course the GTN. All of the armors and weapons in the collections window are adaptive as well. Not all of them have an orange title either, some of them are purple. Some of these bits of adaptive gear already have item mods in them, which you can take out and replace with your own item mods. Take care with this because the piece of armor will still have a level requirement equal to the level of those mods you just pulled out. It's better to find a lower level bit of slotted gear and then upgrade the item mods to fit your class and level. Whether I've motivated you to try adaptive gear for the first time or I've scared you away from it, I hope that this podcast was easy enough to follow. It's another one of those auxiliary topics that you don't require to enjoy basic gameplay, but it can be fun to learn about. The topic motivated me to mess with crew skills a lot more than I had previously, so there's that. I can understand a lot better now which schematics are worth getting, which materials are more needed and therefore more expensive on the GTN, and so on. I'm not sure what the next episode of the Tor Noob podcast will be about, but I have a couple of 4-part series planned. I'll figure it out as I go. Episode 7 was recorded Saturday, September 20th, 2014. Show notes, downloads, links to videos, and the usual social media stuffs are all available at tornoob.com. This is Jen, and remember, there's a free app called the SWTOR Security Key that you can find for iOS and Android, which gives you a second level of security for your account. It also unlocks access to a special vendor on Fleet and in various spaceports that provide armor, companion customizations, color dyes, and a few other nifty things as well. Check it out, and thanks for listening.